Hello, good afternoon. This is going to be the machine Boardlight, which is a Linux Easy machine. The way you would sort of get initial access into this machine is you log into a $bar instance, which is some sort of web builder, which I wasn't really familiar with. And this is an older version of Boardlight, which had a really simple vulnerability of being able to capitalize the string PHP, and it would just execute PHP. So that was quite an easy reverse shell. Once you get onto the system, you see that an SUID binary has been set, like an SUID bit, which you have access to, so you can actually change the files or execute the file to be able to get root. So first thing you do is you go to the page itself. Once you see this, when you can click things, but it doesn't really do anything. It's not really like doing anything significant. This is not even a post request. This is just a GET request. So if you look at it from like a network perspective, this is literally doing nothing. It's just a GET. There's no single thing happening about a post. So next step you would do is you would run a FAF scan. I'm sort of revealed it, but the thing you want to do is basically this scan. I'm doing the filter size as if you don't do it, and you have to set this header as well to of course, so you can actually change it. It doesn't work if you do it here. If you don't run the filter size, I'm just gonna do it filter size. You'll see for some reason you get status 200 back every time. And as you can see here, we're getting the CRM, which is the Content Relative Management or something like that. I'm not sure. But if you just add that to your host file and just go to that crm.port.hack-the-box, you will be able to get into this $bar instance. Take note of this version, as I'm just going to be able to view an exploit inside of this. But first of all, we have to sort of get into, if you look through these exploits, you can see it's not actually an exploit to do on the login screen. You have to be logged in. So for us to do that, we have to get these credentials. Well, it's PHP, so you could try some injecting and some SSTY injection or something. But the easiest thing is just using credentials, which are there. So I'm just going to use $bar default credentials. And what you'll see is login is admin and part the same as created. And this one is, in this case, admin. And in this case, as it's an easy machine, oftentimes you'll be able to just log in without any effort. Now we can actually go back to the exploit and see what they do. And then they explain you have to create a page, and then you have to edit the source once you have that. And you can actually execute PHP code. So once we go to websites and actually create a page, so it's going to be a test page. And then we're going to we're now creating the page, which is also going to be test. Doesn't really matter what you name it. You can see if you edit this HTML source code, you can actually see that you can edit PHP. The way it works, you can actually do this, 2 + 2, like this, and have it work. But if you try to save this, so save and stay, it's going to say you don't have permission to add or edit PHP dynamic content. But if you just capitalize like one letter, it doesn't really matter which one or the whole thing, you see it does work. So if we just save and just go to the binoculars, you'll see we get 2 + 2. I think I messed up my PHP. It's not inside the strings things. Well, let me change that. So if you just do echo 2 + 2 like this, and then we do a save and stay and just go to this different thing, we can see we get 4. So that's definitely something we can execute here, right? So first of all, you want to try, do we have, if you know this works, it's highly likely that some other command as well might work. So we're just going to do an echo a system call, and inside a system call, we're just going to do who am I. So it's quite simple. I'm just going to save and stay and see who we are. So we are data. And then if we just look at one-liners reverse shells, which I've already looked up, you can try some of these reverse shells. Most of the time when netcat is installed, you want to use netcat because it's significantly more stable than like running it on PHP. I tried this one, but for some reason it doesn't work. It says that if you don't have the right version installed. So we're going to use this thing. What do we have to do is we just have to change our IP address, and we have to start a netcat listener. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start a listener first. So we have a netcat NLVP netcat and LVP, which is the, I think it's numeric and listen, and then it's force for both, so it has the output and the port. So you can change like VLP, doesn't really matter because it's just setting the arguments. But the P has to be at last because it's the fourth, so we can do 4455. Doesn't really matter what you put here as long as you have something above 1000, because below 1000 requires root privileges to execute. I think it's the same thing if I do it on my machine. So I do a netcat LNVP like 5. It's probably, oh, it does allow it. Okay, so normally, because I think the way I set up the system is I'm Kali, I think it just allows it, I guess. But we're just going to go to the website and we're just going to change what is inside here. As we saw, it did get executed. And we're just going to change it to RP address another 10. Of course, we also changed the port, so we're just going to do a 4455. We're going to save and stay. And that is really sad. What just happened is, this is quite a popular box, so it has around 16,000 pawns. So this thing gets refreshed like every minute, it feels like. So we just have to do this part quickly. Because it just deletes it. It just resets the $var instance, so we just have to create it. We're just going to create this one, and then we have to insert it again. So I believe this is the one, yeah. Then we have a 14.10, and then we have a 4455, like this. Not perfect. And then we have to just open up the PHP, so we're going to just do PHP, doesn't really matter how you write it, right? And then we have to do a echo on system, and then we have to call it like this. And we have to close out of the bracket, close this, and close the PHP. So we're just going to save and stay. And now we're going to try to reboot it, and it's hanging, which is always a good sign. And if we go to our netcat, we should have, or is it? We don't have a reverse shell. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Why not? Let me just close this. Why is this not working? Okay, I'm just going to do save and go to binoculars. This one is also hanging, and this one does work. I don't know, maybe I had the wrong page set up. Right, once we're in here, we can see who we are, and where we are, and what it is. This is not like a stable shell, as it's just outputting. So the way it works, if you look at this, it's removing this F file, and it's making the piped output file, and it's just gonna cat whatever is in this file. So you have to look at it in reverse. This is going to be put into F. It's the system's going to look at what is in F and execute what is in F and do the standard input output thing. So it's combining error into the standard output. That's basically the thing what's happening. And with this, what it means, you can't have like a stable shell. So you also can't do backspace. You can't do a clear. It just doesn't work. This actually is solvable. I believe what you have to do is export term, something like export term is xterm, I believe it was. I'm not sure. It was one of those. But it doesn't really matter for us because we're going to be able to sort of log in quite quickly. So the next logical step you would do is you would find some file that's interesting, some writable directories, or some SUD bits which have been set, or maybe some exploits that we can use because it has some scripts which we can abuse basically. The way you could find this is if you go back here, we can see we're inside HTB public. Most of the time inside of public there is not really something that interesting. What we can do to find this is you have to find configuration files or PHP files or TXT files which contain text. This is quite a big project, so I'm just going to sort of hop over and pretend I can find it easily. But you have to, if you look here, sorry, I didn't do this, you will see we have a conf. And conf is most time for configuration. And the other ones aren't really that interesting, but it might be that API might be interesting. Maybe admin is interesting. I don't know, we have to try to look into it. So if we just go into admin, we can see a lot of files. It can take a lot of time to go through these, so I'm just not gonna do that. What you have to do is you have to go into conf, and there's actually some file you can find, right? Inside of this conf file, you actually directly see we have this server pass, right? What I've done, I've already saved it. So if you look here inside of creds, these are the credentials basically. But what we're going to do is, if you don't find this, you can always run a find on dot, which is the current directory, and we're currently inside this directory, so we're going to find on this directory. The type is going to be a file, and I believe we have to exec grep. So this is, we're executing a grep on the string pass. I believe this is the thing, I believe. And there is a lot of output. I believe this lists every single file which has pass in it. And as you can see, it's still an extreme amount. So it's better to just through these things manually, I think, before trying something like this, because most of the time it's in a logical space. It's not going to be hidden in some weird file. The output is too big to fit into the term, right? So we did find the thing, right? So we basically don't need this thing anymore. I'm just going to go to this one, and what you should first try to do, since this is an MySQL thing, you could try to use this password to log into the MySQL instance. So if we just go to this one, we can say MySQL user is Dollybar owner, I believe it was, and we have a password, and we're gonna say this. It's gonna hang. Why? I'm not sure. But the thing you should do is most of the time you reuse these credentials, so we can try to do this on the different kind of users. So if we just go to here, and I messed up, didn't I? Does it still exist? Probably doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it exists anymore. That's so sad. Yeah, okay. What you should do, I should have done cat/etc/password so you can see what kind of users there are. Thing you would have found is there's a user called Larissa. So if we SSH into Larissa with the password provided, you will actually be able to SSH into the machine. Instead of here, I have already installed linpiece, but what it's going to do, we can actually just run it. The only thing you should be looking for, well, actually should be looking for everything, but this is already quite interesting. So we have this is in standard, the SUID bit of 4 on ADM. So that's definitely something interesting. But I believe this is, yeah, while this is running, I'll just show you how I got it onto the machine. So I have it here, the linpiece. If I just start a Python server with the module like this, basically. But the thing you're going to see is we have this enlightenment here, which looks interesting. Most time this is, I believe this is not something standard, but it's not something that was likely going to bring us anything. But this one does get executed as root, and it's a non-standard thing, basically. So what I'm just going to try to do is locate enlightenment. We can't run it. Maybe we can do enlightenment version, maybe. Yeah, so there we go. So we can see the version. I'm not sure what enlightenment is, but I believe it's a Windows manager. So if we just go to enlightenment exploit, we're sure to find something because I've already pre-looked at it. But if you look at what it is, we can see, oh, okay, this is the wrong one. Linux. It's a window manager, basically. So I'm not familiar with it, but you can manage things with it. I haven't looked that in depth into this exploit, but basically the problem is there's an SUD bit which has been set on this file. So it's exactly that file. So if we just ls/la on the file one, you can see it has read/write s. And s, I believe, is the SUID bit. So this file always gets executed as the owner, which is root. And I believe we can change something where it reads this from. So we have to do these things, right? So I can actually just paste them into a thing. So we have to do these things. I'm not sure why it's creating //tmp, because essentially it's just creating tmp, but maybe it has something to do with it. I haven't really looked in depth into it. Well, then we're gonna do these things, which I'm just gonna have to look at. So it's AX. So I believe, I'm not sure what A is. chmod A. What is it? Yeah, what is AX? Modifies the argument mode once you sets it. So it modifies the argument mode. Full no permissions. Okay. This sets it to tmp exploit, and now we have to make sure this thing executes our exploit for some reason, right? Well, it happens here. How it works, I'm not sure. But if you look at the source code, it had to do a minimum length, I believe, and that's what it's somehow doing here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do here, and this is gonna remove the things as well. So I believe we should now be admin. We're not. All right. I'm gonna do this. You should be able to save it as a file and then run it, but I'm just gonna run this. And this is ugly. Let's just try the exploit. Okay, so here I am again. I'm just gonna try this new payload, as the other one didn't seem to work. So we're just gonna go vim exploit.shell, and we're gonna paste this inside of this. Oh, that's weird. Didn't paste everything fully. It should be echo. So we're just gonna do an echo on this one. Echo doesn't really matter, but you want to have the right mods, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna start the server again. So once I go over to the SSH and actually do a wget on HTTP .//10.10.14.10, I already forgot what we downloaded, but I think it was this. We can try to chmod plus x exploit.shell and ./exploit.shell, and we can see we get the root file. Sometimes when you can actually run this in the bash without having to download it, but I guess in this case it didn't. Well, for some reason, oh wait, what? Okay, like this. And this is the root file. So that's basically how it works. I didn't really go in depth into how this works, but that was the payload. And then you've pawned the box and you can rate it or whatever. Yeah.